WOVU LP, Cleveland.
This is Open Door with Vince Robinson. In-depth conversations with people who are making a difference in the lives of others here and around the world. Culture is at the heart of who you are. Know your culture, find yourself on Open Door with Vince Robinson.
Great dawning, grand rising, Cleveland, Ohio. Vince Robinson here with another edition of Open Door. I'm very privileged today to have someone with me who was all the way down in Nolens. That's the way some folks down there say it. Folks up north may say New Orleans, but you're not from New Orleans if you say New Orleans. So we'll just get that off the table right away. She's an entrepreneur. She's got her hands in a lot of different buckets, and one of her main things is that she likes to help people. So with that, I'd like to welcome to our airwaves today, all the way from Nolens. Her name is Tara Simmons. Welcome to Open Door, Tara.
Hi, Vince. Thank you for having me.
All right. So I like to be transparent with my audience, and I always start the program telling folks how I know folks. Just so happens that you are a very dear friend of mine, kind of like she calls me her bonus dad. So I'm going to call her my bonus daughter. Her name is Imani Capri. She has a couple of shows that have aired on 95.9 WOVU. And as I understand it, she'll be coming back to the airwaves really soon. But we had a conversation about another topic that we're not going to discuss today. But thanks to that meeting, I found out about you. I found out about some of the fantastic things that you're doing and ways that you're helping people. And I thought it would be great if we could have this conversation so that perhaps people may learn something about how their bodies work, how they can recover from things that might be life-threatening or things that might significantly disturb their ability to live healthy lives. So why don't we start just by giving us some background about who you are and what you do. I know you're not here in Cleveland, so I'm not going to ask you to represent your hood like I do many of my guests, but just talk a bit about Tara Simmons, who she is, and what your background is.
So I am an entrepreneur down here in New Orleans. We don't say ins, we say ins, New Orleans. And basically my journey in as an entrepreneur really started as a kid, but in my adulthood, what really kicked things off for me was actually being diagnosed with HPV. So back around 2012, I was diagnosed with HPV. I had just recently had a baby, and I immediately just thought, I need to get on an alkaline diet. But at that time, there wasn't a lot of, mainstream, or what we call in the healing or health community is mainstream. There wasn't a lot of information like that readily available online. So I had to do a lot of reverse engineering and figuring out this whole alkaline diet thing. Along that time, I did run into people like Dr. Sabi and Dick Gregory. Dick Gregory was definitely one of my favorites. And then a lot of prayer. And I actually put together something that helped me to clear a late stage HPV. So I know a lot of people say that, oh, HPV is nothing, that goes away on its own. Well, the thing is, for a lot of people, it does go away or go dormant on its own. But there is a small number of us. There's a number of us where it will not go away on its own. And unfortunately, I was one of those people. So for me, I started at a moderate stage, and over the years, it progressed to a severe stage of HPV, where I was deemed precancerous towards the end of me having that. They wanted to do a hysterectomy. They wanted to do another lead procedure, and it was just too much. So I just really took things into my own hands after seeing many doctors over the years, about 5 years of me having HPV. And what I came up with, I actually prayed. I went into prayer, and I feel like God just downloaded and poured this recipe into me. And so I was like, okay, God, I'm going to go ahead and do this. But if it works, I will post on YouTube about my story, just letting people know what I did to help myself, because I didn't see any other videos online about it. So I post my story about, how I did it. And then so many people just started, hitting me up like, how can I do it too? Does this work for HSV also? And just over the years of just connecting with people through email, we started to really put together processes of how this works with different people who wanted to just try it. So it did help other people. So now 5 years later, we have a kind of a program around helping people through that situation, helping them mentally, helping them to detox their bodies. Now, not everyone is going to be successful. And that's the thing. Not everybody is going to be successful at it. There's so many different things that can happen. It depends on so many different factors. It could depend on your work environment, what type of physical activities you do, your mental state. If you're someone that's going through a lot of personal problems in your life, detoxing may not be the first thing you need to do. The first things we need to do is really to get our spirituality together, to work on our mental states. And that's what I really help my clients, or, the people who come to me now. I help them mostly with their mental state so that they can achieve the things that they're trying to do with their health.
Okay. So when you talk about having been exposed to HPV and just, I guess, wrestling with the impact that it was going to have on your body, and then you received this download, you got the information, you were able to work through it and see some success or progress with it. Just for the benefit of the listeners, I want you to explain what HPV is and how it affects people who have it.
So HPV is human papillomavirus. A lot of people do mistakenly think that HPV stands for herpes virus, but herpes is HSV, herpes simplex virus. So HPV is simply a skin infection. It's not inside the body. You're not going to find it in your blood. You cannot get a blood test for it because it's on the surface of the skin. It's in the epidermis, and the epidermis is the top layer of skin. It actually infects the keratinocytes, which are the keratin cells. So if you ever see like shampoos or hair products that say keratin care, that's the type of cell that HPV infects. And it's going to be the epithelial cells, which are the barrier cells that line our skin, that lines our organs inside of our body, that protects it from, being invaded by different germs, bacteria, stuff like that. So that's what HPV infects. But sometimes doctors do not articulate it to their clients what exactly is going on with that. So they'll say, oh, it'll just go away on its own, just, put this cream on it. But people really need to understand what it is and how it can affect them. So most people don't really get symptoms from HPV unless, if they have a low grade or a low risk version of HPV, which produces warts. So there's low risk and there's high risk HPV. So high risk HPV is going to be what affects women who get cervical cancer. That's the one that causes cervical cancer. It does not cause warts. It'll just cause cell changes on the cervix. Okay. If a woman gets a hysterectomy from having HPV that might have been a later stage, it's very possible, and it happens often, that the HPV will come back later on in life, maybe around menopause usually. Whether the woman is going into menopause in her 40s or her 50s, or maybe she has late menopause in her 60s, that's when it tends to come back. So we want to be really effective in trying to, tackle as much of that as we possibly can so that it's not coming back or showing back up. Now, the low risk version of HPV is what causes warts. You can get warts genitally. You can get warts anywhere on your body. There's people who get warts on their face. And it's very, very, very rare. But you can also get warts or HPV in the mouth or in the throat. But it's so rare that maybe only about 3%, 2 to 3% of people will get that form of HPV. So the way that you tackle something like that, you want to tackle it from the inside out and the outside in. And that's pretty much how we do it.
Okay. And how are people exposed to it? How does someone get HPV?
So, per the CDC's website, now the CDC's website has changed since then because of all the things that's going on in the world now, as far as vaccinations and things like that. So the website has changed a little bit since I first went on to the website to look this up. But I did a lot of my research on the CDC's website. What I did was I went back into the archives. I wanted to see what they were saying about HPV 10 years ago or 20 years ago. What were they calling it? What were the doctors doing, about HPV? And on the website at the time, back in 2016, 2017, it said that HPV is a mostly sexually transmitted disease. Mostly, not always sexually transmitted. I've met women who had been virgins who ended up with a high risk version of HPV. And in those cases, it caused you to wonder, how did someone really get HPV? Another thing is women who recently had a baby. If you're pregnant or you recently had a baby, that is probably the top 2 times where they will catch HPV. Not catch, but they will see that you have HPV or diagnose you with HPV. And that's mainly because your immune system is low at that time, because all of your energy in your body goes towards the baby. So while you're pregnant, everything inside of you, everything that you eat and you put into your body uses that to take care of the baby first, and then you get what's left over. So the mom's immune system is usually a bit weakened. Her iron levels are usually low when she's pregnant, and those things can, lead to the imbalance that's happening vaginally, which can lead to HPV. So the biggest thing that is seen across the board with HPV would be an imbalance in the vaginal pH. So when a woman's immune system is low, she's going through a lot of stress. Her sleeping habits have changed. Her work schedule, work habits have changed. That type of stuff is the recipe for HPV manifesting. That's when it manifests, and we don't really know exactly how you got it. If you may have picked it up years and years ago when you were in college and it just never showed up till now, even though you were getting your pap smears, that's when it's a little bit more mysterious. And all we can just say is that that's caused by the vaginal pH being imbalanced. Okay. Which means that the vaginal pH is too alkaline. HPV manifests when the vagina is too alkaline. Okay, so I know that is different from what people are usually hearing about alkalinity and this, that, and the other, but the woman's vaginal pH needs to be between a 3.5 and a 4.5. So if it's too high, then the HPV will exist. And if you can get that vaginal pH to lower down to the normal range, then that's when you knock it out.
Okay. I have a lot of questions, and I'm really glad that you're taking the time to explain how all this works, because I'm sure that there are folks who are listening right now who definitely have questions as well. And hopefully we'll be able to get to the heart of the questions that they might have. You are listening to Open Door right here on 95.9 FM WOVU. It's a Burton Bell Carr community radio station. My name is Vince Robinson. My guest is Tara Simmons, who was dialed in all the way from New Orleans. And we're glad to have her on the show today. She's dropping science, dropping knowledge. And we're going to continue our conversation right after these messages. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Crazy T.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Sims, the CEO of Predictable Results Marketing.
Hi, this is Stephanie Phelps.
Hi, this is Wanda Harris.
Hello, this is Hanford Top Dog Dixon.
Hi, this is Honey Bell Bay, the Purple Poet.
What a dooskies, lovely listeners. This is Kiko.
What's up, guys? I'm Yoni Lopes.
It's E-Rock Beats. It's Ray Huza. And we are
Hot Nation. And you're listening to Burton Bell Carr Community Radio.
WOVU 95.9 FM.
Welcome back to Open Door with Vince Robinson. My guest this morning is Tara Simmons. She is an entrepreneur. I don't want to call her a Jill of all trades, but I know she's got her hands in a lot of different buckets. Today we're talking about her entrepreneurism, but we're also talking about matters of health, and we have been talking about her recovery from HPV. In the previous segment, we talked about ways that it shows up in folks, and most of the conversation that we've had has been around the female gender. I'm curious about the fact that, perhaps this is something that can afflict men too. Is it something that affects men too?
Yes, it does affect men, but at a different rate from women. So what most men will experience would be a low risk version of HPV, which are genital warts. Okay. Genital warts, it can pop up. It can stay there for, a certain amount of time, depending on that person. And then it can seemingly go away. And then at another time when you're stressed out, then it'll pop up maybe in a different area or in the same spot. And then the doctor would normally try to freeze it off, burn it off, and that would pretty much, or they'll use, a cream, and that's your only three options for that version of HPV. But men can also get high risk HPV, which leads to penile cancer. It's extremely, extremely rare, but I will tell you that I've met a couple people with that story. One person was, he was a nurse working in the operating room, working on a patient who was diagnosed with penile cancer, and he helped with that procedure. And then next thing you know, now he's diagnosed with it, and he thinks that maybe he got contaminated from that surgery. Another person that I met, his doctor told him, hey, don't worry about HPV. He told his doctor that his girlfriend has HPV. And his doctor said, oh, don't worry about HPV. It doesn't really affect men. So he's super concerned. He and I built a friendship over the years, just through email, and we had a few phone conversations, and we just keep up with each other, just kind of share information. And he's actually overseas, so there's different types of testing that they can do for a high risk HPV overseas. So he was getting a penile swab, which is very difficult to find and to get in America. You would probably have to go to New York or California to get a penile swab. But the doctors kept telling him, oh, no, it's nothing. It's nothing. Yes, your white blood cell count is elevated, but you're fine because HPV doesn't really affect men. No, you need to dig deeper. If you feel like your situation is deeper than what they are saying, then continue to dig, because it was last year in 2021, they finally diagnosed him with penile cancer, which is what he had been telling them for, at least 2 or 3 years. So you really have to, take these things into your own hands if your doctor's not giving you all of the answers that you really need.
Okay. And what did he do to address it as it was appearing as a cancer to him?
So he's continuing to try to detox. He really needs to come back over into the States because, even with my program, it's really based on things that's here in America. A lot of Native American traditional items that we're using. With my program, we don't use any herbs. It's all foods from the grocery store. It's all natural whole foods. It's not a ton of supplements. There's really only one supplement that, completes nutrition. And it's a very simple process. But when you're overseas, it may be more difficult for you to get certain items, certain, foods like turnip greens. It's really hard to find turnip greens when you live, outside of America. So we're still working on his situation to see what we can do in conjunction with his doctors, of course, too, because we don't want to, take our medical professionals totally out. We need them still.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I was also thinking about prophylactic measures that we can undertake. And I know that years ago, I remember I was in a relationship with someone and they had a teenage daughter, and it was suggested that they take some type of a vaccine. And I remember in the media, there was good and there was bad about the vaccine. And, now we're living in the age of the vaccine. So I don't necessarily want to get into that rabbit hole. But what can you share about the effectiveness of a vaccine for HPV?
Well, what I can share with you would be the emails that I receive from people who took the vaccine. That's the only information that I really would have on that, is what others have told me. So I have received emails from people who said that they did not get a wart until they got the vaccine. And the HPV vaccine is a traditional vaccine. The COVID vaccine is one of a kind. It's the only thing like that exists. It doesn't have any bit of the virus or active virus in it. But the HPV vaccine is a traditional one. They worked on it for many, many years, for decades, before they actually came out with it. So it went through lots of different trials overseas in India and Africa and other countries. And that's where a lot of controversy comes in because, of what those countries and their political systems have said about the HPV vaccine. But what people report to me is that they got warts only after they took it. And that, a few people told me that they had some trouble conceiving and they feel that it might have been from that. It is speculation, but this is what, large amounts of people have told me over the years, especially at one point where it was really being pushed on TV and the commercials. That's when I was getting the most emails about people saying that they still got warts. Now, what I can say about the vaccine is that it is not for every single type of HPV. And I think that's where the confusion comes in because the doctors need to articulate to the patient that this vaccine is for the strains of HPV that are most known to cause cancer. So the HPV vaccine is going to be for 16 and 18. 16 and 18 are the HPV strains that cause the most problems that are known to turn into cancer. So it's not going to protect against every single type of HPV. Also, on the CDC's website, it says that, or it did say at that time when I was looking these things up, that if someone already has HPV, then they're getting the vaccine is not going to cure them of the HPV. It just will protect them from those certain strains that are known to cause cancer. So if you get diagnosed, getting the vaccine is not going to make your HPV go away. It's only going to protect from those other types of HPV if you don't already have it.
Okay. So in terms of prophylaxis, are there things that we can do? And I'm saying we, because you said that men have a potential to get it too. Are there certain things that we can do, certain practices, lifestyle choices, foods or whatever? Are there certain things that we can do to protect against getting it?
Absolutely. There really is. Now, it's not going to be 100% because nothing under the sun, nothing on this earth is going to be 100% in no sector of life. Okay. So, but you can definitely take an apple cider vinegar and baking soda bath after intercourse. That is going to help you a lot. If there's anything on the skin, that is going to help to kill any type of germs, bacteria, viruses that's on the skin. Okay. Especially for women, you actually want that water to go in the inside. Okay. So that if there's anything in there, you want to kill that too. Also for women and men, make sure that you urinate after intercourse. That is very, very important that you urinate immediately after intercourse. That's going to protect you from, so many different things, chlamydia and all kinds of STDs if you just do that. But really the apple cider vinegar and baking soda baths would probably be like my number one go-to to protect you from that. Now, with HPV, it's very, very important that you know that there is a blood vessel that HPV manifests in your body that did not exist before having HPV. It will manifest little blood vessels to go to the surface of your skin, okay, to feed the HPV, okay? And you may not see the HPV. It'll lay on the surface of the skin like a sheet of paper, and then when it's agitated, then it will create a wart in that section, okay? So these blood vessels that go up to feed the HPV is going to give the HPV exactly what it needs to exist. So you need to cut off what it needs to exist, which most importantly would be sugar in any and all forms. It does not matter if it's fruit sugars or artificial sugars. Now, yes, there are some people who can go to a negative or undetected level while having some sugars. That is for some people. But for most people, if you want to be very clear about killing off that blood vessel and killing off that, that HPV in that area, then you want to make sure that you are refraining from all forms of sugar, like fruit. And of course, like candy and things like that, and sodas, cold drinks. If you're in New Orleans, we call them cold drinks. But you want to keep those things out of your diet. Some people with just some exercise and cleaning up their diet, that can help them with the HPV. Now, I want to show you a supplement that you can take that will help too. All right, so this is a supplement that you can take. They're on my website. And this is what I still take them to this day because they help with so much more than just HPV and HSV. But these supplements do help regulate your blood sugar. It gives you like all of the nutrients that you need. Spirulina and chlorella is similar to sea moss. They're sea life. But they work very well on my program. So this is what you can take also. I have my mother taking them and she doesn't have these issues, but it gives you mental clarity and it also helps to balance out your hormone levels. So if anybody's hormonal, you're going through some emotional, your emotions are kind of here and there, take this. This will balance you out, but that will also help fight free radicals. And free radicals is what feeds HPV to turn into cancer.
Okay. What was the website that you can acquire that product on?
It's going to be tarasdetox.com. TARAS detox.com.
Okay. Spirulina and chlorella, both green things I know.
Yes.
And things that come from the sea that are green generally don't taste good. What about what you just shared with us?
Yeah, that is true. That they don't taste the best, but they don't taste bad. There's some spirulina chlorella that you will open the bag and you will smell the fishiest fish that you could ever smell in your life. If you like your fish, it will be very fishy. But this company that I use, they're actually the #1 producer of spirulina chlorella in the entire world. It's a company that is overseas in Taiwan, and they are the #1 producer, hands down, of spirulina chlorella. And it always comes to you fresh, and it's not going to have a really strong, pungent, fishy smell. It'll have more of like a nutty type of smell to it than that extreme fishiness. And then also you won't, like when you take fish oil or fish pills, you'll burp, a little bit of that fishiness. That doesn't happen with this. Even my children, my 2-year-old's been taking them since before he turned 1. I'll find this bag open and his whole mouth will be green. So they're safe for children and everyone to take.
Okay. Sounds interesting. I've got some spirulina and chlorella somewhere in my collection of herbs and supplements, but I've kind of stepped away from them. So now perhaps you've given me an impetus to reintegrate them into the lifestyle program. I do know how important it is to get those sea greens in, and the sea moss is something that I also do. I've got some sea mosses waiting for me to soak and get the sand out of it, and get it all cleaned up so I can put it in the blender and let it, as they say, do what it do. We're going to get into the protocol that you have created for this and some of the other things that you're doing to help folks with their healing efforts when we get back. So you're listening to Open Door right here on 95.9 FM WOVU. I'm Vince Robinson. My guest is Tara Simmons, and she's dropping the science on us today, y'all. So hurry back. We'll be right back after this.
While you want to listen to WOVU 95.9 FM, here's the reason why. We play all independent music from Cleveland artists. Yes, we do each and every night. We support the community. We support the Cleveland local artists. This is what we do. And we got the hottest playlists from gospel, from R&B, from rap, the hip hop, and also we have jazz right here, WOVU 95.9 FM. Don't forget to download our app right now, WOVU. This is a Burton Bell Car Community Radio.
Welcome back to Open Door with Vince Robinson. My guest this morning is Tara Simmons from New Orleans, Louisiana. We've been talking about HPV and some protocols that she implemented within her own life that have assisted her in getting past that ailment. And she's also been able to successfully help others navigate a course away from being afflicted with those things. But I want to be very careful and make sure that I express to you that she's not claiming to have a cure for this, but she has her own personal experience that has enabled her to deal with it successfully, as well as others. So we've talked about certain things that we should be doing. For instance, you suggested after having intercourse that a man would go ahead and use the bathroom. You also suggested that perhaps you take a bath afterwards and you use baking soda and apple cider vinegar. While we're on that subject, can you give us an idea of the proportions that you would use in the bath water if you were doing baking soda and apple cider vinegar?
Yes. So you want to use 5 cups. And these are going to be the cups, the measuring cups that's for cooking. So it's an 8-ounce cup. Okay, so 5 cups of apple cider vinegar without mother. Okay, the regular apple cider vinegar without mother. It's like $5 for a gallon or $4 for a gallon. And then you want to use a 1/2 cup, measuring cup for cooking, of baking soda, Arm & Hammer preferably. And then you want to use a full tub of water. And then for women, a small number of women, those measurements might be a little bit too strong for her. So for a woman who is sensitive, I would use 3 cups of the apple cider vinegar and 1/4 of a cup of baking soda.
Okay. It's interesting, Tara, as we have this conversation. You initially talked about this whole idea of alkalinity, and you talked about listening to folks like Dr. Sebi, and I think yesterday you mentioned Dr. Layla Africa, and everybody's so into this idea of alkalinity, and it's like, well, you got to be totally alkaline and not acidic. But if you use something like apple cider vinegar, from what I understand, it is acidic. And from what you have been sharing with us, there are appropriate aspects of our lives that involve dealing with something that is acidic. Can you talk about the benefit of having acidic aspects of one's lifestyle?
So actually, apple cider vinegar is acidic outside the body. Once you ingest apple cider vinegar, it becomes alkaline. So Everything that you test the pH of, if it's acidic before you ingest it, when you ingest it, it's going to become alkaline. If it's alkaline before you ingest it, it's going to become acidic in the body once you ingest it. So that was one of the things I had to learn along the way, because I was like, okay, I need an alkaline diet, but how do I know if these foods are alkaline? So I'm looking at these lists. These foods are alkaline, but when you ingest it, it undergoes chemical processes that will change it. So many people talk about you got to be alkaline, but there's a time and a place for alkaline. And there's actually certain things that if your pH is too alkaline, it will cause problems. For example, soaps. I'll just use your skin as an example. Your skin and your hair is supposed to have a pH of about 5.0 to 5.5. So if you're using a very alkaline shampoo, it is going to dry you out. If you're using a very alkaline soap, it is going to dry you out. That's why your skin is very dry when you just use that Dr. Bronner's, okay, to wash your hair or to wash your skin. You're going to dry out because it's too alkaline for your skin. You're killing off good bacteria also because that bacteria needs to survive at a certain pH, which would be the 5.0 to 5.5. So that's how that works. Now for the vagina is supposed to be acidic. It's a 3.5 to 4.5. So I see people that's telling others, okay, you need to this alkaline soap for the vagina or these alkaline herbs for the vagina, but you do not want to alkaline your vagina. Now, I think that some people maybe they don't understand what the herbs are doing to that area, to the vagina, where it's not making it alkaline. It's not the alkalinity that is helping. It's the enzymes in the plant that's helping. It's not about just the alkalinity. So all of the foods that's on my protocol, it's all dark leafy greens. It's all green vegetables. Okay. There's no carbs on the protocol except for like HPV, diabetes, and things like that. There's one carb, which is the quinoa, but for the HSV crowd, there's no carbs on that at all. It's totally carbless, which propels things along. There's no fruit on it at all. And people will assume, well, but fruits are alkaline, so why can't I do fruit? There's people that have fruit on their protocol. Well, this is a recipe. It's a recipe like baking a cake. So just because something goes well in another type of dish doesn't mean that you're going to put that inside this cake, because then the cake won't be cake anymore. It's not going to be what you expected it to be. So this is one of those things also. Now, in the body, there's different pH requirements for each system of the body. Okay, your mouth is a 6.5 to 7.5. Okay, that's the safe range. Now, your stomach is going to be really acidic. It's going to be around a 2.5. Your stomach acid is very acidic to break down your food. That's not supposed to be alkaline. Going through the digestive system, through your intestines, there's certain areas where it will become neutral or more alkaline, and then it's got another area inside that process that needs to be acidic, and then it'll go through and it becomes more alkaline, and then it's, on the way out the body. So outside of a cell is about a 7.1 pH. The inside of a cell is a 6.9 pH. So by you just eating a whole bunch of alkaline foods, just any alkaline foods, that is not what's healing you. You have to map out the enzymes that are doing the work and then find the foods that have those enzymes, which coincidentally, they're alkaline foods. But if you go deeper, then you can better help someone's situation. Just going alkaline only scratches the surface. And alkaline vegan is really not going to just help HSV. You need the specific foods that are not just alkaline, but have those key phytochemicals, the phytochemicals and the enzymes inside the foods that's doing the work. Okay.
So you mentioned a few things that are involved in the protocol, and I don't expect you to give it all away, especially if it's, different things for different people. But can you talk about more extensively what your protocol would look like?
So it is the 5 steps to freedom. It's a basic 5-step protocol. I'll just tell you, it's not even that much. The hardest part is the mental part about it, because let me tell you, I'll tell you what's in the detox. But it's the gut bacteria that controls us. And people don't really understand how serious that is. What you have going on in your gut, the gut bacteria connects to your brain. So we needed to call this as it is. These bacteria and germs and viruses in our gut have a consciousness to exist. They move around. They decide what they're going to do. They eat and poop and all this kind of stuff inside of our bodies. They are conscious. They are conscious entities, and those conscious entities speak to our brain, and they direct us to feed them. So these bacteria, viruses, and all of this stuff in our gut can control who we decide to hang out with, the type of lifestyle we decide to live, whether or not that's what we really want to do. We start doing things that we should not do or eating things that we should not eat. Like, for instance, someone who picks up a parasite. If you pick up a parasite, I met a girl once where she picked up a parasite traveling outside the country when she was younger. And from that point, her diet habits totally changed. She went from someone who liked to eat healthy foods, green foods, to someone who could not stomach eating a salad or something healthy like that, and just straight carbs, pizza, hot wings, and foods like that. And then she really was going through so much with this parasite. It made her gain an enormous amount of weight. And then she just decided to go on a detox that ended up flushing out the parasites that was in her body. But it was so hard because the parasites are telling you, no, I don't want to eat that. No, throw that up because you don't want that, because I don't want it. And it's getting to me. I can't exist with that. So when you're doing the detox, the hardest part is dealing with the entities in the gut telling your brain, something that you are not trying to do. You are not trying to get off of your protocol. You are not trying to eat all of these sweet foods, and then also the people, you will eventually change the company that you keep while you're on protocol if your company is toxic, because you're going to detox emotions, situations, people, and all of that stuff once you really, truly start to really detox.
That's really interesting. And what you share with people is similar to what I share with them. I tell them about the fact that you got 2 different brains, and that other brain is that the brain that's in your gut, and they're sending signals to your brain for you to eat certain things because those bacteria and those parasites are craving those things, and that's their way of getting what they want. I also appreciate what you said about sugar in one of the other segments that we have, because sugar, at least from what I've learned about it, is very acidic. And sugar is also something that affects our immune systems in a very negative way. And one of the reasons that people right now in this time of respiratory distress are so weakened in terms of their immune system is because they continue to eat the things that they've eaten all year round. And one of those things is sugar that shows up in so many different forms. I mean, just because you're not adding sugar to a dish doesn't mean that it's not there. if you purchase a loaf of bread, for instance, well, that loaf of bread is going to have a certain level of sugar in it. And it might be called high fructose corn syrup. It might be called evaporated cane juice. It could be called any of a number of things. But when you look at the ingredients on that label and you see that sugar part of it in the first few things, that means that it is predominant. If you look at a can of what you call cold sodas down there, what was it?
We call them cold drinks.
Cold drinks. Yeah. So when you look at that cold drink, you're not thinking about the fact that there's 14.5 teaspoons of sugar in that drink. So you drink that and it's going to mess with your body for not just the minutes after you drink it and experience the crash. You've also dysfunctionalized white blood cells, the things that come to your rescue when you got issues that threaten your well-being. So it's so important for us to know these things. And it's so important for us to adapt our diets to the things that will be beneficial to us as opposed to the things that are detrimental to us. I always tell people, I say, look, the things that you ingest will do one of two things. They're either going to hurt you or they're going to help you. You get a choice with everything that you put in your body. Something is going to hurt you or something that's going to help you. And we'll always default to that whole notion of, well, everything in moderation. Everything in moderation. So you can have moderate amounts of sugar, but if sugar is poisonous, it's not moderately poisonous. It's poisonous, period, point blank. So if moderation is your default, you got some things to consider if you're thinking about trying to be healthy and stay healthy. Tara, this time is just flying by us. You know, we're already ending our third segment and we're about to begin our fourth segment, but I wanted to make sure that I covered some of the things that folks can resort to if they are concerned. And I think reaching out to you might be the best way to get the understanding that best fits them. You're listening to Open Door on 95.9 FM WOVU. I'm Vince Robinson. My guest is Tara Simmons, and she's been giving us the skinny on detoxification and how it can benefit you and perhaps lead to you being able to manage something as severe in your body as HPV or HSV, which she said was herpes simplex virus. Perhaps we'll talk a little bit about that when we return. We'll be right back with more Open Door after this.
What's up, Cleveland? It's your girl, Jazzy J, and I just want to know, have you downloaded our app yet? Yes, our app for Androids and iPhones. All you got to do is go to your app store and download WOVU 95.9 FM, and you can listen to us anywhere.
Welcome back to Open Door with Vince Robinson. My guest this morning is Tara Simmons, and she is an expert. I'm beginning to see quite clearly that she's an expert on detoxification. You know, I go through a detox 4 times a year. I try to make the transitions into each season by doing a detox. So for the solstice, I do kind of a hybrid juice fast. I'll take organic navel oranges and I'll blend them with water and cayenne pepper, and that's my beverage for 4 days. And leading into that, I'm supposed to do a detox, which could consist of an enema. It could be taking that magnesium citrate that will completely empty out your bowels. I'm a little scared of that. I'll be honest with you on that. So I might cheat a little bit and maybe take some Trufalo or eat some prunes or something like that. You know, maybe when I get my big boy pants on, I can venture down the magnesium citrate task, I guess. But just detoxification in general. You know, many of us, we never detox. You know, it's day after day, week after week, month after month, and toxins are being stored in our livers, as well as those toxic substances being present in our gut flora. What can you suggest to people that will, I guess, be an impetus to them to consider doing some type of detoxification on a regular basis?
So I will tell you that dark leafy greens are a detoxing food. Okay, so if you feel like you want to do a quick detox, okay, and maybe you're not ready to go the whole 5 steps of freedom, but you just want to kind of get your feet wet, you want to do something maybe for like a week or so, I recommend doing dark leafy greens. So these are the vegetables that we cook together on my detox. This is the main meal that we eat. It's going to be spinach, kale, cauliflower, and turnip greens, and you cook them all together in one pot. If it's someone with HSV, you only season with pink Himalayan salt, black pepper, and a little bit of turmeric. If you're anyone else, you can season it very well. Pink salt, black pepper, garlic powder. I like to put fresh garlic cloves. I shave them. My mouth is watering. And that's a great meal for you to eat. You can eat that all day long. That would be your breakfast, lunch, and your dinner. That would be your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And, it's definitely going to flush toxins. Now, if you get on the full 5 steps, it's possible that you will see parasites in the toilet. You will, for women, they'll see stuff come out of their vagina in the tub. You may see some skin shedding when you take your baths, from down below. So let me tell you really quickly what the 5 steps are. Okay. So step 1 is going to be testing your pH actually, and then drinking the apple cider vinegar and baking soda tonic. Okay. Step 2 would be for you to, Step 2 is going to be for you to do the oral routine. So we're not brushing our teeth with toothpaste. We're not using mouthwash. Why? Because of the sugars and the chemicals in it. So we're going totally natural with this until we're finished with our health goals, whatever that may be for you. Okay, so we brush our teeth with baking soda and hydrogen peroxide. I now make a toothpaste that's baking soda and hydrogen peroxide, but you can just mix it up yourself. It doesn't matter if it's watery or if it's thick. And then you oil pull with the coconut oil after. The next thing you do is you're gonna take your supplements. Okay, so that would be step 3. You're gonna take your supplements. Then we have our meal plan, which I just gave you the basic meal that we're gonna eat all day long. There are some snacks that's on the list for people too. And then the last step is going to be our detox baths. Now, the detox baths is something that some people will complain about because they don't take baths, they take showers. Is it a must that I take the detox baths? Yes, it is a must that you take the detox baths because the detox baths are going to help with the release of toxins. And if you are releasing a lot of stuff out of your body, sometimes, there's only so many ways that your body can release toxins, okay? You're going to release it in your sweat. You're going to release it in your breath. Your breath is where you actually release a lot of toxins, and fat comes out of your breath, okay? That's why people who don't sleep very much also have problems with losing weight. You got to sleep. When you sleep is when you do the heaviest breathing, and you'll release the most fat that way. But you also release the toxins from going to the restroom. But we need something else. If you got a lot of toxins that's releasing, you can get your lymph nodes can get swollen. You can get swelling in your legs and your ankles. You can get a little bit of pain in your legs. Even like your whole body might swell up. But if you take the baths, that releases into the tub and it puts you to sleep, makes you feel so good. So if you're on any type of sleeping aids, sleep medications, you won't have to take them because the vinegar baths, the clay baths that we're taking, they knock you right out. Okay. So that's the basis of what we're doing. And it's so simple, but where it's not simple is in the mental space. Having your mind agree, your mind and your body agree. Okay. And that's where we have affirmations. I just released a wellness journal and mindset workbook about a week ago. We have the 5 steps to freedom manual. And then we also have like group activities that we do too, totally anonymous. Okay. So you can attend these workshops that I do. I have a masterclass next week where we'll be going through the entire process from beginning to end on what we do with our protocol. And no, it's not guaranteed that you will finish. It's just not going to be, something that everybody can finish. But there are some people who can come out testing negative from doing this. So no, I don't promise this to be, a cure for people, but I can tell you that this is something that some people can reverse their issues by doing this.
Okay. So you mentioned HPV and you also addressed HSV to a certain extent. Is there something different that you do for HSV versus HPV?
Yeah, it's going to be slightly different. Now for HSV, let me explain a little bit about that one. So HSV is an infection of the nervous system. So that means that your nerve cells are infected with HSV. It's not that your blood is infected. Yes, it is detected by blood, but they're not looking for the HSV virus in your blood. That's not where it is. They're looking for the antibodies that your immune system creates to tackle the virus. They're looking for the antibody count in the blood. Okay, so when you're dealing with HSV is very dependent on amino acids such as lysine and arginine. It's also dependent on carbs, and it's dependent on the different chemicals that we're exposed to in life. Okay, now if you're just someone who has HSV and you're not trying to detox, not all of these things are going to cause you to get outbreaks, because most people with HSV never get an outbreak, and they won't find out until they're going to do, a routine testing just to see if, let me go and get an STD check. You have to request HSV because it's not included on the standard panel. You have to specifically tell them to include HSV in your testing. So a lot of people find out that way. Another way people find out is by getting that one outbreak. When they're diagnosed with it, they'll have this one outbreak and they'll never experience another outbreak again. But it's the mental stigma that is really getting to them and causing them to kind of regress themselves in life and just hold it and go into kind of this shell. So it's really, that's the reason why I'm doing this, so that people don't feel like, oh, I have this disease and, or this infection and now I'm dirty and, no one will want me. Those things, that's what we tell ourselves, but that's so far from the truth. I mean, over 80% of the population has either HSV or HPV, especially HSV1. About 90% of the population has HSV1. It's super, super common. It's usually not transmitted sexually. It's usually just from, maybe a kiss on a cheek for kissing a baby. And then you get this when you're young, maybe in daycare, how kids are like sharing toys and one slobs on a toy, hands it to the next kid. Now the next kid has it in his mouth. So it's going to be transmitted through saliva mostly when it comes to HSV1. Now you can infect yourself genitally with HSV1 from using your own saliva as lubrication. Okay, so it is very, very common for someone who has HSV1 to also have HSV1 genitally, but it can be difficult to get diagnosed with it genitally. And I would say that's because if you get an outbreak genitally, they're going to test you for HSV2. They're not going to test you for HSV1. You have to request that they test you for HSV1. If they swab it, they will detect HSV1 and HSV2. But if they just try to give you a blood test for HSV2, it's going to come back negative, and you may be a bit confused about that. So the process between HSV and HPV is that for HSV, we have to pay attention to the amino acids. So there's a few less foods on the HSV protocol as opposed to the HPV protocol, but they are primarily the same. It's going to be the same 5 steps as far as, pH testing, the tonic, taking your supplements, doing the meal plan, which that's where it's slightly different. You're going to still take your bath. You'll still take your supplements.
Okay. We just have a few more minutes before the program concludes, and I want to make sure that before we shut things down, that folks have a way to locate you and locate the products that you have shared with us. So let the listeners know how they can find Tara Simmons online.
Okay, so you can email me at info at 5stepdetox.com. That is how you can get in touch with me. You can also find me on Instagram at Tara's Detox. Remember, it's Tara, Taras Detox. And then we are going to be releasing the podcast very, very soon. Okay, so if you want to, get in on the podcast, definitely follow me on Instagram, and I'm releasing more information on when we're going to be doing the podcast and all that stuff coming up soon.
Okay, so they can go to Instagram and find you and get access to your program.
Yes, my links are in the bio.
Okay, and on your podcasts, where do you go in terms of your direction?
So on the podcast, we're going to be talking about health in general, not just HSV and HPV. We're going to be talking about different things that you can do with your health and doing demos. So my mother, she's also a nutritionist. She got her degree at Tulane University down here in New Orleans. And she's a very huge asset for me. And she's going to show us how to make different poultices for different ailments that we're experiencing on our body, anywhere from fibroids and cysts to pain, to healing, to, for something for women with breast cancer. So, but, we are not guaranteeing that this is going to fully help you, but it will help in a lot of regards. And it's mostly because you are taking control over what is going on with you and you're really into it. Where you put your focus and your attention, that's where you're going to see a lot of progress in your life.
Well, Tara, I got to tell you this. You just opened up another can, and there's a whole bunch of worms in it that need to be dealt with. And one of those is fibroid tumors. I know sisters who are dealing with it, and the solution is always to go to the hospital and get a hysterectomy. But that's not always the best thing to do, especially if you don't want your childbearing days to be over and you want to be productive in that way. So it's really important for us to do things that support good health in that region of your body. So I think we'll probably need to do a part 2 since we've talked about HPV and HSV. I think we're going to come back and we're going to need to talk about those fibroid tumors because they're wreaking havoc on folks. And, we're giving our ability to perpetuate our race away when we capitulate and go to the doctors and say, okay, doc, go ahead, take it out of me, because I want this to be over. And it's not always the best possible option. I want to thank you so much for what you have shared with us. We've given you information on how to reach her. I will double up that information on the YouTube post with the thumbnail of her beautiful face and the recording of the conversation that we just had. Tara, thank you for joining me on Open Door.
Thank you so much for having me, Vince.
All right. And thank you for listening. You've been listening to Open Door right here on 95.9 FM WOVU. Know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, and make today your absolute best day. Peace and blessings.